Hello, and welcome to Reddit Rewind, where we cover Reddit's most ridiculous stories. So today's story has to deal with theft. Steal my design and get all the credits? Enjoy getting kicked off. So my friend over in Korea studies fashion design. She sometimes sends me over the sketches of the designs, and they all look amazing. Then again, I'm not into fashion. She is particularly interested in designing handbags and purses. She told me a story about how she shut down one of the most entitled, self-centered, lazy students on campus. Cast: Grace, our main character girl. Jane, the evil one. Professor, the instructor, of course. The story. At first, Grace and Jane got along just fine. They were both interested in similar stuff, and quickly became BFFs. Grace decided to show Jane her sketches and designs for handbags and purses, and Jane was so impressed by it because the sketches were in incredible detail, including all the patterns and sew lines, coupled with figurative measurements. Even Professor was impressed by it, and it was no surprise that Grace got a high mark on their first major exam. Jane didn't do so well and practically followed Grace everywhere to get pointers on how to do better, so Grace decided to help her out. Unfortunately, Jane turned out to be one of the most entitled, lazy, and selfish people that Grace has ever met. Things that Jane did to piss Grace off included, but are not limited to, not paying attention, being late on their study session, never showed appreciation, didn't pay for coffee or snacks, complained annoyingly about how hard it was to draw something. Grace pretty much gave up on her after a week, refusing to meet Jane outside of her class. Time went by, and for the midterm, everyone in the class had to do a presentation on the stuff they had designed. When it was Jane's turn, Grace was shocked to see Jane had stolen one of her designs. Thankfully, Grace had multiple designs going on, so there were no conflicts when it was her turn to present. But she was seething with rage. Grace had a meeting with the professor afterwards, and the professor knew what was going on, but couldn't really do anything with Jane because it turns out that she was the daughter of the chairman, or one of the major investors. Grace said she can't recall. The chairman apparently blackmailed the professor into giving Jane the best grades. The revenge. Professor did, however, help Grace devise a plan to humiliate and expose Jane. For the finals, the professor announced to the class they would do another presentation, but it would be 3 designs and advised they had to bring their A game because professionals from industries would be grading their work, and the head of the department and the chairman would be there as well. So you know how Grace had a bunch of sketches for the class? Well, Grace also had a separate sketchbook that had designs from major brands, MK, Coach, you name it. She never used these directly for class assignments, but rather as inspiration for her designs. Grace pretended to be all friendly with Jane again, and brought the other sketchbook to their meetings, still putting up with all the problems mentioned above. Grace secretly worked tirelessly on her new design, and did her best to keep it a secret from Jane. So the day of the final presentation arrives, and Grace and the professor are grinning because they know what is about to happen. Grace went first, and she got a lot of praise from the judges. After a few more presentations, the last one to go was Jane. Jane's presentation turned out to be another copycat, copying designs of not 1, not 2, but 3 different companies. After the presentation, this was how it all went down, at least according to Grace. Judge 1.
So you're saying you designed all these by yourself, right?
Jane. That's right. Judge 1.
And you swear that it really was your design and didn't copy of anything else, right?
Jane. I swear. Judge 1.
You are aware your designs are from the 3 brands.
Jane. Huh? Judge 1.
Are you aware that these are on the market right now and some of the most popular designs?
Jane. Wait, hold on. Judge 2.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up. If you had worked for any brands, you would have probably been fired or worst case, sued.
Jane. But.
Judge 2. Please, I'm not done yet. Did you honestly think this would work? We, the judges, have been in the industry for over 10 years. We know a copycat when we see it.
Jane. But these aren't even my designs. They are from Grace. Judge 3. To Grace. Is this true? Grace. Yes, but I never use them for major projects nor call them my work. I just use sketches of them as inspirations for my own designs. Judge 3.
Well, that was clear from your presentation.
Turning back to Jane.
Now, Miss Jane, this was a clear case of plagiarism. I do hope your school is merciful on this matter."
After the presentation was over, the chairman screamed at the professor in front of everyone, not realizing he had just revealed all the blackmailing and the secret grade deal. Jane tried to call out Grace on how, "You screwed me over," but it didn't really matter. No one listened to Jane's attempt and slander, and was kicked out of the school. Chairman pretty much lost all support and had to resign, and was replaced by a far more honorable and competent one. Edit. It's only been 3 hours and I already got silver. Thanks, guys. For everyone that's saying this sounds like a fake webtoon K-drama plot, let me tell you that crap like this happens all the time in Korea. But most of the time, victims tend just to swallow the losses and try not to make a big deal out of it because they don't want the infamy of all the drama that it will release. If you think gossiping and fake rumors were bad in US colleges, wait until you see what happens in Korean colleges. Besides, the plot of webtoons and K-dramas are often based on or inspired by real-life events. I also forgot to add that Grace passed with flying colors and was recommended for an apprenticeship/internship over at Paris, but due to COVID-19, it was canceled. Wow, talk about drama. Yeah, the plot of this story does sound like it would come out of something like a soap opera or a daytime drama, but it was definitely interesting. I didn't know there was this type of drama going on in Korean colleges, but hey, you learn something every day. Thanks, Reddit. Now on to the story itself and my comments about it. I'm glad Grace had the wherewithal to swallow her pride for the short term to make this master plan with the professor in order to get back at not only Jane, but then her father, the chairman, and basically expose this corrupt situation that the chairman and his daughter were masterminding. So, on to the comments. One of my art teachers told us about a student who picked someone else's project out of the trash and tried to pass it off as their own. Design 1 and 2 have pretty standard projects every year. Not only did the teacher recognize it as from her previous class, they peeled off the tape with the current student's name to reveal the old student's name. Cherry on top was the current student was pissy about having to repeat the class, thinking they should only fail the assignment. Didn't seem to realize he was lucky not to be expelled. First of all, that's a great story, and second, that is a pretty ballsy move by the student to think that the teacher wouldn't recognize an assignment that someone had handed in from the class before. I guess some people will try anything to be lazy and get away with not doing any work. I had a similar situation happen to a friend of mine actually in elementary school. The person sitting next to him forgot to do the assignment, so when he wasn't looking, the guy sitting next to him stole my friend's report when he wasn't paying attention, covered the name with whiteout, and wrote his name over it. Of course, my friend recognized it immediately and wondered where his report went, asked the teacher to then scratch off the whiteout, and of course, his name was on there. So yeah, this stuff does happen. So on to the next comment. If you were caught cheating or plagiarizing at my university, you'd be on academic probation at best and have to be on your best behavior or risk expulsion, or just outright expelled. Yeah, most universities have a plagiarism clause in their contracts, so if you're caught cheating or plagiarizing, you get kicked out. These people who get caught doing it and are still allowed to study there with a slap on the wrist, you are very lucky and be thankful that you can get away with that one mistake and still be able to continue your education. And on to the next comment. When I was dean at my local college, 3 students came to me to complain that their teacher failed them with a 0 grade in a programming exam because he caught them sharing code. Their point was that it was a 2-part exam, the first being producing the code and the second an oral examination where the students presented their code and answered questions about it. They were complaining that the teacher prevented them to do the second half. They caught me in a teacher's break room and presented their complaints loudly, and some other incredulous teacher asked, "And what else do you want? Be expelled per code of conduct?" The students were dumbfounded. They didn't have a clue as to what admitting to plagiarism to a room full of teachers and their dean could have cost them. I was content to just let them naturally fail their courses. Wow, this dean was very generous and very nice. These kids weren't thinking straight and had obviously completely forgotten about the code of conduct. So, again, good on you, Dean, for being so lenient and letting these kids maybe learn from their mistake and have to take the class over again instead of missing out on their chance to finish up their college education. Our next 2 comments deal with the topic of studying in Korea. Dude, one of my coworkers studied abroad in Korea for a year for some design/graphical stuff, Not sure if it was fashion or advertising, but holy crap, the amount of cheating that apparently goes on in the name of saving face is ridiculous. And the next comment, Korea or US, it happens in all colleges. I would say especially in creative fields, because it's so hard to prove who had the idea first. Lazy jerks are everywhere. Yeah, so I guess plagiarism is something that happens on all over the world in all universities, and it doesn't matter if you're in the United States, Korea, or somewhere else in the world. And apparently it happens quite often in the creative fields, like this commenter mentioned. So if you're out there in a creative field or going to university, always back up your stuff, log it, and be sure to show a chain of evidence that can support that you were the one who came up with the original idea and it was your project. Don't be lazy when it comes to logging and proving stuff, especially if you think someone might steal your idea. And our last comment. Oh, goodness. I have taken fashion class for senior year in high school. The first thing the teacher said was even in an art school, fashion design school, or anything, never leave your sketchbook around, not even with a professor. So I guess that says it all right there. Plagiarism, stealing ideas, not being original, that's a big thing in fashion. Who knew? I had no idea. If you're creative, protect your stuff, backlog it, and make sure you get credit for the work you deserve, because being creative and coming up with ideas is hard work. Okay, guys, well, that's it for today's story. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe. Till next time.